we died. Right now we're living it. How are we living it? Living it up. My brother, right here, we're living it. Where are we living it? Living it up on top. Who makes the summer sun shine bright? That's right, Persephone. Who makes the fruit of the vine get ripe? Persephone. That's me. Who makes the flowers bloom again in spite of a man? Who is doing the best she can? Persephone. That's who.
Everybody hungry, everybody tired, everybody slaves for the sweat of his brow. The wage is nothing and the work is hard. It's a graveyard in Hadestown. Way down, Hadestown, way down under the ground.
I'm coming awake for me. I hear the walls repeating, the falling of my feet, and it sounds like drumming. And I am not alone. I hear the rocks and stones echoing my song. I'm coming.
Pour yourself a cocktail, crack a bottle of wine. We're swinging with the stars without standing in line. Fishing with the divas, hanging with the hunks. Every time they hit the stage, they're all slam dunks. Sparkling conversation, inside information, a bona fide Broadway backstage education. Break out the bubbly, it's time for toast with your lovable, laughable, affable hosts. So hold on tight, we're hot to go on the Broadway Cast Reunion Show.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my.
Here
Oh
we are.
my. Week 2.
Week 2.
Crazy. This is crazy.
Everybody, if you don't know us, that's Lee Lessick. I'm Robert Bannon, and welcome to the Broadway Cast Reunion Series.
Can I just show my t-shirt because I'm sitting down and nobody can see it, and I love it. It's like the best swag ever of a show.
Absolutely.
I love
so
that.
good. So amazing.
So
We're
good. So-
so excited you're here.
We are so excited you're here. We're excited to be here. This is our new Broadway Cast Reunion Series. I have to thank Johnny Rogers, our dear friend, who I called 3 weeks ago and said, we're starting this new show and I feel like we need a theme song, and he wrote it. And
So, thank you, Johnny.
I love it. So I'm thrilled about that. Crazy.
The journey for us to get here to this Hadestown reunion, we got a lot of help. We had a lot of help from some real amazing people.
We did. And honestly, when we, Robert and I have been doing for 45 weeks now, a weekly talk show on Thursday nights called Quarantine, Cabaret, and Cocktails that seems to have become popular, which we're thrilled about. And we just started reaching out to our friends in the worlds of Broadway, music, TV, politics, whatever, and just to try and add some levity and light during this quarantine. And one of the themes that we started doing were Broadway cast reunions, like one every couple months. And we noticed that our viewership really spiked, our live viewers. And so here we are. Here we are. While venues across the country, and there are hundreds and hundreds of them, that were planning to present a Broadway season, remain dark. We wanted to create a platform so that they could keep their patrons engaged with the very musicals they were planning to present. And we came up with this idea of the Broadway Cast Reunion Series, where we would reunite the cast, and tonight the cast and creatives, which
Oh my gosh.
is crazy. It and these venues can then share it as a gift of engagement to their patrons, to their season subscribers, until they can open their doors safely again. And we premiered last week with the original principal cast of Frozen, which was so much fun. But I have to say, when we had this idea, we had just booked the 3 women that played the Fates in Hadestown, who released the most glorious holiday album called If the Fates Allow.
Stunning.
I know. I read about it like on Broadway World or something and listened to it and called Robert, and I'm like, we have to get them on our show.
Mhm.
And I think I texted one of them like via Instagram. I knew none of these people. And I was like, do you want to come on our show and we'll promote your album? And she was
He
like,
did.
that sounds great. Talk to our publicist. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And she put me in touch with the publicist, who happens to also be the publicist for the Broadway production of Hadestown. And Aaron, he connected, booked them on our show back in, was it November or December? I don't remember.
December, I think the beginning of December.
Yeah. And they came on and they were delightful. And I called him back and I said, so we've got this idea. What do you think? And he loved it. And he put me in touch with the marketing team that does the tour marketing for Hadestown, because our idea was to reunite Broadway casts to support these tour venues that remain dark. So he connected me to a wonderful guy by the name of Andrew Damer, and he loved our idea. And he said, well, I think we should reach out to producers. If the producers are on board, if they like the idea, then it'll be easy to engage the cast. And so he reached out to the producer of Hadestown, and she loved the idea. And here we are. Our goal, our first and foremost goal in creating this new series was that we wanted to employ Broadway artists that have been sitting at home for a year. And so that's what we've done. We pinch ourselves every day that this is happening.
Yes.
That this is happening to the extent that it is. Our ticket sales are crazy. Venues, every day we bring on new venues for the series. We've committed to doing this through July for 6 months, 2 shows a month, every other week. And it's incredible. It's really, we're very excited about it. But if Aaron and Andrew didn't come on board to guide us and assist us and advise us, this would never be happening. So we are really, really grateful to them and to Hadestown, because that's the show that they represent. When Aaron sent us the email, I'll never forget, saying, here's your show. And it was 4 of the Broadway principals and the director, Rachel Chavkin, and the writer, Anaïs Mitchell. We were just like, really?
Wow.
Really? It's an embarrassment of riches. We are very grateful. And, this is one of those shows that has like a crazy kind of cult following, because we've noticed online and on social media, and the response to this show is incredible. Robert and I both had the privilege of seeing it on Broadway, and it was one of the most stunning productions I've ever seen.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous. So we're really, really, really excited about tonight.
You being here literally helps support the arts, and we miss Broadway so much. We miss theater, so we hope to give you a little bit, an hour of some insight into your favorite show. And I remember leaving Hadestown, Lee, and just being like, firstly, I saw Reeve and Patrick. I'm wearing my Spider-Man bracelet. I wore my Spider-Man bracelet. I mean, I go back to seeing them in Spider-Man together and then to see the evolution, to hear about how a show like this moves from an album to an off-Broadway, to a workshop, to off-Broadway, to London, to Broadway. I can't wait to hear about the journey of Hadestown.
It's crazy, right? Just crazy.
Absolutely.
Well, we want to show you a montage of the Broadway production, just to give you a sense of what this is about and the art. I mean, the pictures that Rachel Chavkin created are stunning, just stunning.
Wait.
So we want to show you that.
I have my Hadestown. I'm ready. I'm ready to do it. I have my lantern. I have my helmet.
We're going to show you this, and then we're going to first talk to Rachel and Anaïs, and I'm just thrilled. Okay.
Lover, I was lonesome. Think of it as my desire.
Show the way the world can be. If you can do it, so can she. If she can do it, so can we. Show the way.
I'm coming, wait for me. I hear the walls retreating, the falling of the feet, and it sounds like trumpet, and we are not alone. I hear the rocks and songs echoing our song. I'm coming.
I'm coming, wait for me. I hear the walls repeating, the falling of my feet, and it sounds like drumming, and I'm not alone. I hear the rocks and stones echoing my song. I'm coming.
Wow.
Wow.
So great to have you both here.
What an honor. Oh my God. I remember a year ago, January, I was in New York and I got tickets and went to see the show. And I was literally like just dumbfounded. The pictures, Rachel, that you created in that show, it was the most glorious thing I've ever seen. I also left the show feeling like I needed to go back a dozen more times because I felt like I missed so much. It was stunning. So
Stunning.
bravo to you.
Bravo.
Thanks. We worked. I think I always, when I taught directing, I always said that time equals the number of choices that you get to make, and quite happily, and Anaïs knows this better and can testify it better than anyone, but this show took a long time to develop before it got to where it is. So thanks for that.
You had quite a journey. So Anaïs, you created this album in, was it 2010?
Yeah, so it actually goes a little further back than that because, and I'm tuning in from Vermont right now, which is where I was living in 2006, which was the very first version of Hadestown, was a DIY community theater production in Vermont. And then made that record that you're talking about, which came out in 2010. And then the show became like a concert for a few years where we would roll around. We had like 14 passenger van full of people, and would kind of present the show as almost like a radio novella. And then I met Rachel, in New York, and we had like off Broadway, we had Edmonton, we had London, and then we had Broadway. So it was really like we had a lot of choices to make and
No.
remake.
Was this your first sort of foray into theater? It was.
Yeah, I think this part of why it took so long is there was a steep learning curve for sure on my part, and I mostly come from the music world, and I'm a songwriter, regular songs.
Regular
No, you
song.
have
Well, can I just say that for someone's first foray into theater and Broadway, to win a Tony
wow.
Award for the best musical is pretty good.
Mm, well, I had some amazing collaborators holding my hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, how did the original idea come to make this music and tell this story? What was the start, the thought behind it?
Well, the story that I sometimes tell, and I know there's a lot of probably like creative artists watching, and just the way that ideas will come out of nowhere and you follow them. And that's really like the way it began. Was I was driving in my car. I was like in my early 20s, and I was starting to have a songwriter career, and I was driving this really long drive from, I think it was Virginia, back to Vermont, and I had this idea for the chorus of the "Wait for Me" song. That's "Wait for me, I'm coming," and in the car it went, um, "Wait for me, I'm coming in my garters and pearls. With what melody did you barter me from the wicked underworld?" And that
Oh,
was the lines. And they didn't end up in the show ever, but they seem to be about the Eurydice story, which is one that I had always loved, Orpheus and Eurydice. And I'm not like studied in Greek mythology, but I think that particular story just spoke to me. And this idea of this young, idealistic artist who goes to the underworld, which is a place where the rules are the rules. You don't get it doesn't matter who you are. And he believes if he could make something beautiful enough, he could maybe change the way it is. He could change the rules of the world. And it's a total cosmic romance
yeah.
love story.
Mhm.
I got really nostalgic seeing some of that footage, and also seeing in the virtual backstage, seeing our brilliant cast again. It's like, yeah, it's a lot of feelings to see everyone virtually gathered again.
Yeah. I imagine. I imagine. Well, it's an incredible story, and I just thought that, well, first of all, the score is gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's so funny. I had a friend of mine last night, a neighbor, randomly text me just to check in. How are you doing? And she's a writer and a blogger, and and she said, "Have you seen Hadestown?" And I was like, "Are you not following me on social media? Because I'm doing Hadestown cast reunion tomorrow." And she was like, and I was like, "Have you seen it?" And she's like, "No, but I just heard the album and I'm obsessed."
So many people from
Amazing.
around the world have not seen the actual stage play, but listen to the
It's
music
so
over and
beautiful. It's
over again.
so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, you guys. I just wanted to say that this part of the long gestation of the show, I think, is that it did live in the music world for a long time, and we got to spend a lot of time working on like that album. And the orchestrators of the show, Michael Chorney and Todd Sikafus, are really gifted, and Liam Robinson, our vocal arranger. And so there was a lot of focus put on the music even before we were talking about dramaturgical stuff.
Right. Yeah. But it's not, the Broadway world is not an easy one to break into, and to enter into it in such a huge way, a profound way, is pretty amazing. And so I have a question. So I know you did like a lot of readings and workshops, and then you did the off Broadway with New York Theater Workshop. What was the the trajectory to go to the National in London, and then like, was that, did these things just show up, or was this a planned course, or how does that work?
Um, yeah. Um, no, it was what was planned was that it would be um, methodical and that we wouldn't make a move before ducks were in a row. And that really is the credit of our initial producers, Dale Franson and Mara Isaacs, who then later were wonderfully joined by Tom Curtihy and Hunter Arnold. That said, I think so we knew we needed stages, and then there is a lot of kismet, and I am so I have in addition to my life as a freelance director, I came of age and have still quite a thriving life with an experimental ensemble called The Team that Amber Gray is also a part of, that I helped start when I was 24 years old, and got its start actually at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in 2005. And so I have had a huge amount of my life in the UK and came of age with a whole bunch of people who now run theaters there, including at the time Ben Power, who was the deputy AD at the National. And we were actually just like having drinks in January, and they'd had a big musical fall out of their season. And it was like before he finished the words, I could see, oh my God, we're gonna do Hadestown. Like that's gonna be Hadestown's next stop. And I said, well, we could do that show here. And he had known about it through me for years. So it was a perfect match for the Olivier, which of course is this Shakespearean scale space that also was meant and built like a Greek amphitheater. So it was really perfect for the show.
I
Rachel,
think that's amazing. I remember several years ago, I met Dale Franson when she was programming the Broad Playhouse in Santa Monica. And so I was tickled when I read that she was the producer of Hades. And I know she's watching tonight. So
Yeah,
hey,
Dale.
Dale, congratulations. That's amazing. It's amazing. I love when wonderful things happen to wonderful people. So I loved seeing that.
Rachel, what was the appeal when you first heard it or saw it that brought you to this? What made you say yes to this project?
Yeah, well, I think like a lot of people, and like you were just both speaking about, I fell in love with the music first and foremost. And I would say my tastes are not typically for what has come to be like kind of immediately identifiable on ears as like a Broadway soundtrack.
Right.
Particularly often there can be a lack of complexity sometimes in the orchestrations of what we think of as a Broadway soundtrack. That in the first time I encountered that 2010 album, Anaïs's poetry and the melodies and Todd's and Michael's orchestrations, and in particular, like the first image I ever had was of Wait For Me, which I didn't know at the time was the first song that had come to Anaïs. And it was of these swinging lights. And I described it like a insane person, I think, to Anaïs that when we first really started getting together. And then later she told me the story that she just recounted of driving home. And I was like, oh, I was seeing the street lights that you were driving under when you were going home to your lover on this long journey. And it's still like the alignment of those images kind of continues to give me the chills. And then when we were in tech for Broadway, 6.5 years later into our collaboration, I remember Anaïs leaned over to me or texted or said at some point in a meeting afterwards, but said, I feel like the lights and the swinging lamps finally look the way you first described to me all those years ago. And it had taken that many productions to get for me and the design team and the right space to get all those
Wow.
pieces of mind.
That's amazing. It's amazing. I want to bring on two of the actors that were part of the off-Broadway production, and I think they may have been also part of some of the workshops before that. Patrick Page and Amber Gray.
There. Hey, it's so good to see you guys. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
How are you? Good.
Really good.
Good. Good.
Patrick.
Is this the first time you're seeing each other since the pandemic?
It's been a long time. I think
It's been a long time, not the first time.
We've had some little Zoom meetings and things, but it's been a long time. How are you, Amber?
I'm well. There have been many different phases of COVID. Every month has a different personality.
Yeah.
And this one's all right.
Seeing
so
you
far,
two,
so good.
Yeah.
The chemistry that you two bring to this beautiful show,
Hmm.
the way you two work together on stage, when people around the country and people come back to Broadway, their chemistry is off the chart.
Yeah.
How was your guys' journey to Hadestown?
Yeah. Amber.
Well, when we for our first workshop together, I believe I was in my 9th month of pregnancy with my first kid, which is a deeply intimate thing to have to slow dance with a man when you have a whole human in between you. And I just fell in love with him right away. I didn't have to really do any work. It just was that first workshop, that moment was so intimate. It was sort of a sealed deal from there on out. But I feel very safe on stage with Patrick Page. He's one of my favorite team partners.
Yeah, I remember that of Amber being pregnant, and in my mind, I always still kind of have the pregnant Persephone in my mind because it was the first Persephone I worked with. And Amber's Persephone has changed over the years. Some of the things that you now see in the Broadway production weren't in those, in terms of characterization, weren't in those early workshops. Those are things that Amber and Anaïs and Rachel found later as they moved along. But I very much remember that first one.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, no one leaves the theater and doesn't recognize both of these iconic voices. Your voices are literally iconic on Broadway. That recording will live on for years and years and years.
Oh, for sure. We have some great production photos that they shared with us of you that are just, I remember this so well. Oh my God.
So stunning. The costuming, the lighting, and the whole blocking of the whole entire piece is just such a beautiful picture, like we said. So,
what do you think?
Goodness.
You know, Broadway will reopen. What do you think? What will the process be to remount a show like this that was so tight? I mean, so tight. Every element of it was so tight. The choreography, the movement from scene to scene. Rachel, I literally was just like, my jaw was hanging open because the pictures that you created they ran deep. You know what I mean? Like I was affected by the imagery as much as I was by the music, by the lyrics, by the script, everything, you know, the pictures, it was stunning. So, and I know that didn't happen overnight. That was a process to get there. What do you think the process will be to get it on its feet again after a year plus, you know, sitting at home eating ding dongs?
Well, I talked with Andre earlier, and I believe you guys, you remember every moment, right?
Yeah.
So right there.
Gonna squeeze right back into that costume.
Not at all. Both Amber and I were very thrown when the dance was changed between London and
We'll have a 3-week workshop just on the dance.
Yes.
yeah.
We'll have to go through a rehearsal process again. There's a huge degree to which I think, like, what I see, and obviously Amber and Patrick, I'm curious how this aligns with your internal experience. But what I see from the outside, particularly with you two, who are like such fusions of craft and delight, um, one of which is quite, I think of it in some ways as rigid, and in other, and then this as being like a total loose cannon. And it's hard for me to imagine those coexisting without each other. And I think in many ways they're reliant upon a muscle memory, so that like when Patrick, I watch you just like go to the rafters during chant 2 and bring the house down with I Conduct the Electric City. I feel like every time I'm just watching someone who's just like madly playing a course he knows super well. So I think it's, in short, going to be about rehearsal to get that muscle memory back. But Amber and Patrick, I defer to you both.
Well, we have a little advantage, which is that we've come and gone from the play several times. So, and each time, actually, I think having a bit of space is not a bad idea. I know that I will come back after playing a year 8 times a week. I know that I will come back with a renewed energy and appetite for the material that had begun to become a bit full sitting at the table. And that's fine. That's where your technique comes in. That's where you say, okay, even though I would really rather be at Sardi's right now, I'm going to do the show. But of course, we always adore doing the show. I'm joking about that to a large extent. But 8 shows a week, actors were never meant to do 8 shows a week. They were meant to do 3 or 4 shows a week, and that's it. But we do 8 because of the commercial environment and all of that. And I think we'll come back with a real hunger for the material and an appetite for it. At least I will.
Absolutely. And those, the 4 productions we've done, we've just gone deeper and deeper. So now we'll have a 5th production, which is really wild to think about. And it will actually sink in even deeper in a way that we didn't understand before, which I think will be really beautiful. But the muscle memory is there. The muscles are just like weak and atrophied at the moment. Like, there will be a proper process to get the stamina back. Like, if you flipped me over right now and had me sing Way Down, you might hear a squeak. There wouldn't be any singing coming out of me. I'm out of shape, and happily so.
I hear that. I think I can relate to that. It's quarantine 10 and 15, but you guys look amazing. But I'm sure you could pick it up tomorrow. One thing I thought about when I was listening to the cast soundtrack is, from the writing to the directing to, Patrick has an illustrious career of playing the villain in so many amazing Broadway shows. Did you guys go into this process, being Hades, being the characters? Is there, for lack of a better word, good guys and bad guys? How do you wrap your head around the character and who they are in the story? I don't know if that totally makes sense, but you guys are, you're Hades. How do you come to terms with that as an actor or as a writer or as a director?
I think it's a good question for Anaïs. For me, I never thought of him in those terms. I thought of him in terms of someone who's trying to get the love of his life back and find something of his youth that he'd lost, which was this deep and very, very real love for Persephone that somehow has slipped somewhere. And I don't know how it's gotten to where it's gotten, and just trying to get that back.
Yeah, I would say that working with Patrick really informed the rewriting of that character. And there was no way for him to be 2-dimensional, because Patrick is not, and it was like, I just think you brought so much humanity to him. And then there were certain choices that we made where we did have to rewrite things, because he is a vulnerable character, as well as being this, compulsive king. And there was a moment actually in the footage that I hadn't seen in a really long time, and it made tears kind of spring to my eyes. This moment where it's near the end of the show, and Hades has agreed to let Orpheus leave with Eurydice, and it's the goodbye moment between Hades and Persephone, wait for me, I will. And this just like you're holding Amber's hand, Persephone's hand, sorry, and you don't want to let it go. And I see that happen. And then there's just after that this moment where you go to shake Orpheus's hand, but you don't look him in the eye.
Oh.
You know what's gonna happen. It just kills me every time. And that yeah, there was so much complexity to moments like
Yeah,
that you
it
brought
has
it.
to be on the page, though. It has to be on the page. You can't make something out of nothing.
Yeah. Well, I
I
think
also
we need.
think. Mm.
No, go.
I was just going to say, I also think we need a full rehearsal process as well, just to get the emotional vibration of where everyone's at out of our system. Like, the show's always been prophetic, but now after the last 10 months, it's like creepy. So I'm going to spend the first 2 weeks just like weeping in a corner. It's going to take me a while to get it together and say any of these words again in front of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's deep.
Yeah, it is. Well, I think we need to bring on your Orpheus and Eurydice, Reeve Carney and Eva Noblezada.
Hey guys.
Hey guys.
Hey!
Hey! Yeah.
Reva.
As I said before, we've been the only people that we've actually shared breath space with for the past year, so don't worry.
Yeah. Are you in New York City?
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. Okay. And how is it there?
It's here. It's vertical. It's standing. It's concrete. The concrete jungle. It's
With all the changes over the past year, it's hard to know if we're back to the general standard amount of people on the streets that we're used to, and it feels like maybe we are minus
almost.
tourists.
It's very
hard to tell.
strange. We went through Times Square today, and I was like, "This is a little weird."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels sort of normal. I don't know. Yeah.
Weird because it's kind of empty, or
It was, yeah. I mean, we've been here the entire time. So early April, it was very strange walking through the theater district because, I mean, still it's really sad to see the theaters not yet open, but the amount of people, I mean, you'd maybe see one person per block. It was pretty strange.
It's weird to have the busyness kind of back, but the buzz of Broadway still completely shut down.
Yeah.
It's very obvious spiritually. So.
But there's a Krispy Kreme donuts near the Hadestown, the Walter Hurt Theater now, which is great.
And it's open 24 hours.
That's life changing.
We wouldn't know.
Eva and Reeve, you both, when you both came to Broadway in your Broadway debuts, you made such a splash. There were such moments in Broadway, all of the Broadway fans watching, and then to take those shows and then come to Hadestown is quite the Broadway journey. How was your process into entering this show, this juggernaut of a show?
I was really grateful for the opportunity to do something in which the details of the acting were really focused on, because I had the opportunity to be in an incredible show, Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, where there was so much happening. That, I saw your bracelet.
I got my bracelet.
It was blue on. But that's a different type of thing, and so for me having the chance to focus on something that almost is, in some ways, is still very theatrical, obviously, but more filmic in some ways. That was really exciting for me.
For me, I don't know. It was good to sing something that was poetic. Not that Miss Saigon wasn't, but this was poetic in a way that really felt like skin, bones, flesh, muscle, heart, everything. Miss Saigon is such an epic musical, problematic but epic musical. So I was really happy to create something from the ground up that was organic. I was looking at people, these incredible humans that we were as a team creating something from the ground up, rather than, hey, quite literally, get on the boat and let's do this thing, quite literally. So it was fun, but also extremely challenging in a way that's made me feel way more confident as an actor than I've ever felt. And this is the last professional thing that I've done technically. So that speaks a lot about how the experience was so helpful in my growth, as well as I feel like everyone else's growth, maybe. I don't know. I don't want to speak for you.
Well, also just to be able to, you made came to popularity doing the revival of Miss Saigon with rave reviews, but to create a role on Broadway is very different.
Yeah.
And 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 in something, you know, like this piece that is so profound, and then won Best Musical. So I imagine that that's a pretty special place to be. I mean, same with you, Amber. Patrick, I think you've done 867 musicals. I looked on IBDB today, so I'm not sure how many roles you created in the past, but that's a big thing, especially on a musical as profound as this that has gotten this kind of attention. That's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
That's all I have to
You know,
say.
you think of-
One thing I have to say, and it goes
it's
to
a
the
very rare. It's a rare thing, and
Yeah.
you know, a major thing in an actor's life. You get sometimes you get a role. you know.
Yes.
Joel Grey is a wonderful, wonderful actor, but he's known as the MC in Cabaret.
Correct.
Carol
Correct.
Channing is an extraordinary performer, but she was known as Dolly. And to have a role of your own
Yes.
is an extraordinary thing.
Yep. Yeah. It's
Well,
amazing.
sometimes musical theater gets an unfair treatment in terms of acting. I will tell you this, from the writing to the directing to these four, they are acting their faces off 8 shows a week on stage. This is not just some sing and dance show. When you see it around the country or you come to Broadway to see it, they are bringing choices and real method and real acting to this process. That is not, I'm exhausted just watching one show, never mind 8. That's some emotional journey.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say that they're doing it in incredibly, it's a beautiful challenge, but like rigid territory, because I think all 4 of these cats can testify, and Anaïs can certainly speak about it from a slightly different angle, but one of the defining features, of course, of Hadestown is that it's all sung or musicalized in some
Yes.
way. And so there are these like Herculean tasks that we call the recits, i.e. the recitatives, that are these wildly thick, deep scenes and interactions between the characters that demand unbelievable emotional navigation. And you have you got very specific beats to land that navigation on. I don't know if one of you wants to talk to that.
Should we rehearse? We could do some rehearsing.
Right? You know, interestingly enough, this is interesting. And this is where I would love for you all, or anybody that wants to chime in. You know, when you are the Tony winner for Best Musical, that's a big deal. And as such, you have a very healthy national tour plan that unfortunately has been postponed and rescheduled and postponed and rescheduled and postponed and rescheduled, but now hopefully for the last time. But I would imagine, because this is such a unique, specific piece, that there is a large portion of the ticket buying population that doesn't really know what Hadestown is about, because it's not like they're going to see The Lion King or Oklahoma or My Fair Lady. They don't know what it's about. What would you want to inform them of, or tell them to get them excited about coming to the theater to see the show? Yes.
I'm actually pointing to Rachel, who's above me.
Brady Bunch.
I think you do a great job at this one, but I'll do it if you want.
Yeah, I want you to do it.
Okay. So what's it about, and why should people be excited? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's Hadestown. It's based on Greek mythology. We sort of covered that. It really is this tale of 2 love stories, you know, and you're looking at them right now. There's the young lovers, Orpheus and Eurydice. Orpheus is a sensitive soul and an artist, and Eurydice is this tough kind of runaway character. And then there's this ancient love story of Hades and Persephone. Hades, the king of the underworld. He's a sort of industrial boss king, and he has this troubled marriage with, and half of the year is a long distance marriage with Persephone, who's the queen of nature and the seasons. And the world has deteriorated partly because the marriage of these gods, Hades and Persephone, has deteriorated. And the young lovers get sort of caught on the wheel of that industrial conflict, and Orpheus descends to the underworld to try to get his lover back, and also to hopefully to change the world for the better. And why get excited about it? I mean, I think it's a sad story. It's a tragedy. It's a Greek tragedy. But the show has like so much joy in it. Really, from start to finish, there's sort of there's a lot of joy and kind of deliciousness in the staging, the dance, the music, the kind of poetic nature of the piece, that I think people can find themselves in it. You know, it's I think anyone could find themselves reflected in the show, because it is this mythic show, not set in a particular time or place, but really in this mythic, poetic, political kind of dreamscape. So I
Yeah.
think people find themselves in it.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, as Anaïs says, like, it's a show that, like, because it's myth, it speaks on very ancient levels and yet refracts so much. I mean, Amber was talking about this as well, that we feel on a minute by minute basis today, right? A world where the climate is incredibly screwed up and it is hurting the lives of people trying to survive within that climate. It's the feeling of being alone and being made to feel isolated versus finding salvation in the idea of the many and the possibility of organizing and like standing with your fellow man or your fellow lover, and trying to change the system. It's about rebirth. That's really like the theme that Amber's character Persephone carries, and the promise that after the winter, spring will come again. And I think there's something incredibly medicinal and healing about the show, even with the tragedy. And I think in particular, as the country, whatever your politics are, we might agree there's a lot of healing to happen. And so I think the show is going to be incredibly welcome and meaningful on that front.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Eva?
Oh, I was just snapping because I thought that was wonderful. Sorry.
Yeah, well put.
I have one thought about it. I mean, hopefully Anaïs and Rachel, you tell me what you think. But for me, it this might be too, but it in a cathartic way for sure. It sort of explores in a very like, I don't know, abstract sort of way, I guess. What I would maybe think of as like the dangers of forsaking or even forgetting who you are destined to be. To me, that's one thing I feel from the show. I don't know if people relate to that, but for me, that's one of the most powerful parts of it in a broad sense. And you can apply that to any of the relationships or the relationship we have with the earth or all of this. If people go against, their destiny in a way, with the effects that can have.
I get that.
Absolutely. And I think that's very clear in Reeve, in your journey in the show. Like, you have a intention, and you take it and you fight through it throughout the show, and it's really fascinating to watch. And then to see Amber and Patrick and that conflict come to a head. If you're watching and people are writing right now in the comments, like, you should see it because they act and sing their faces off, and the story is brilliant. And that's really to see that the way you're describing it come to life is a really beautiful thing to see in the audience.
I can see myself in all of the characters as an audience member of the show. When I watch rehearsals or even just reading the beautiful script, I can see myself in all of them. So I think that I hope most people can, not just the one they identify with the most.
Reeve, what was it like? I mean, you sprung on the Broadway scene in Spider-Man, which was such a spectacle and a physical show, and huge in that way. And now you're in this show, which is so intimate in comparison. What was the experience like for you in those two?
I love both for different reasons, and I know I'm very fortunate that both of these shows allowed me to not have to go to the gym at all while working. So I mean, that's been really nice. Like getting the free workout, that's a great byproduct of being in a Broadway show that has some physicality to it. But I mean, I felt like I had a lot of that in Hadestown as well, which is great. But I don't know, like I said before, about the more you have the ability to, in the Walter Kerr 918 seat theater, I think, you versus Spider-Man, I think was close to 2,000 seats. So you have the ability to catch a lot of the details of the acting from even the back row that you wouldn't catch in a larger house. So that's something that's really nice. But the good thing about our show is, as it pertains to things like tours, there is just so much happening that obviously it's I wouldn't ever call Hadestown a spectacle, but it's spectacular. I mean, there's a lot for. Rachel's directed this in a way where, from any audience position, any position in the audience, you get a uniquely incredible experience. But it was nice. I think that was the difference for me. Whereas you had to play much more to the back of the house all the time in Spider-Man, and I didn't always feel that was the case with Hadestown. You didn't always have to do that. So I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a very intimate experience. Yes. At least that's what I felt watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very intimate experience. Amber, what I thought you were stunning in this production, and I was not familiar with you before I saw it. And your performance was it was just astounding. It was so impactful, to me anyway. It was beautiful and stunning, but there was a fierceness in that beauty that was like, I don't know, I couldn't keep my eyes off of you. And it was really and you've been with this since practically the beginning. So that's years. How do you, is every production a completely different experience? How do you keep that flowing for so many years?
I think it's a few things. One, yes, it's being with it for a long time. It is like well marinated, right? It's what Chavkin was talking about earlier, which is craft. I mean, I love craft. I'm an acting nerd. I just want to go back to acting school every 4 or 5 years and learn more. I really rely on craft, and I am a firm believer that you have to figure out how to be able to repeat something thousands of times. And it's like, I've been doing more TV film, and those muscles are quite weak in me of doing something maybe 3 times if you're lucky. And that is its own fun thing. But I also really love doing something literally 1,000 times because it's magical, man. Like, you get to time 250 with your whole cast and you all short circuit together. Some people start forgetting lines. Some people start tripping, thinking about what foot they take off on. All this weird, we all short circuit together, and then the bottom drops out after a couple of weeks and everybody goes deeper. You go deeper and deeper. And by the time you close, you get to that 1,000th show. Something is clear to you that should have been clear to you in the very first reading 6 years earlier, but your brain just won't let you see it until you know it's over. That's I love that about repeating something so many times. So because there have been different iterations, that has kept it fresh, and that has been like the layer cake that's helped keep it interesting, you know. But
Wow.
and hell, we've been through a lot in the last year, so it's been quite easy to. I haven't had to work that hard to like pull for different
Got
things to
it.
keep me going. Something will keep me going for like a month, and then some other horrible thing will happen, and that will keep me going for a month. You know, it's I don't
Yeah.
know. And I have fantastic scene partners. Like I
Well,
deeply, deeply, deeply love these humans, and it is so easy to do. And the reason I fell in love with the show was Anaïs's music, that original 2010 album. And the music sustains you as well. I don't think people maybe know how much that can give you. Like if the music wasn't there and it was just a play and I had to say these words, there's no way I could do it this long. Like the music tells you a lot. The music told me how to move. Like I don't think I would have come up with certain movements for Persephone if the music wasn't there. You know, it's like it all gelled in this one, which it so often does not.
yeah, for sure. And you know, acting opposite Patrick Page is not a bad deal because
Not at all.
he's genius. He is genius. He is. I love him. We have so many questions
A
for you
ton.
from our viewers. So, would you guys ever film the show and share like they did with Hamilton? I guess that would be for you, Rachel.
Yes.
Okay. on
That's
to the next
exciting.
question.
That's exciting.
If you could play another character, oh, this is good. Yes, let's throw this to Patrick. If you could play another character, who would you be? Man or woman?
You know, I guess I would. I guess I'd switch roles with Amber, and we'd see. I'd try on. I think I'd learn the most from that, probably, in terms of my. It's hard because you know you do become when you play something a long time. It starts to play you more.
Right.
You can relax enough into it, as Amber was saying. It's deeply marinated that you can forget about everything and just let it occur as it happens. And so it's very hard for me to think outside of the role of Hades, because I still feel like there's a lot to do there. A lot I haven't maybe found yet. Oh, you know, if I had the voice for it, which I don't, I would love to play Hermes, because being the storyteller is fun.
Wow. Can you imagine? I'm just going to throw this out to everybody on the screen. But have you thought about what the feels are going to be like on that first night back? Have you thought about it yet? Too soon?
I think about it a lot.
I think about it all the time.
I think about it a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think, honestly, knowing the cast and knowing how Anaïs's music mixed in with the message of the story is like a river. It's epic, and it's never, you don't step into the same river twice. So you understand the importance and the specialness, the epicness of being a part of this flow, ebb and flow every single day. It's going to wreck us. It's literally rehearsals. Maybe we'll keep it together, but I genuinely think the first time we have a live audience, it's going to wreck us. I know that for sure because I randomly listened to, my phone went on shuffle the other day on the way home from something, and it played what was it, Epic 3, and then I was like, might as well listen to the rest of the show, and I like wrecked. Oh my god, it's going to literally wreck us in a way that I feel like will be healthy. It'll be a part of, like Amber was saying before, the healing that we genuinely need from this crap show.
A good wreck.
A
good wreck.
moment.
But you know what? Here's the deal, and this is the blessing. To be part of a project. I mean, Broadway shutting down. Who in our lifetime could ever imagine what this year has been? But to be part of a project as special as this, and to know that you are coming back together as a unit is such a blessing, because it's not the case for so many of our colleagues, of your colleagues. It is a blessing. And this show, which I found profoundly healing to watch, is going to, it's going to be profound beyond what you can imagine under the new normal. And that's incredible, because that's the gift that you all are providing to us, the viewers, night after night.
Can we take 2 minutes? Can we just run through a couple quick questions? Because I know there's 800 plus
Yes.
people watching, 1,000 people. Can we just take a few more minutes of your time and just answer some more thousands of people watching?
What do we
around the
have?
world?
How did We Raise Our Cups get incorporated into the show?
I'll take that one. I'm kidding. I'm sorry. I'm kidding.
This is a good argument, actually, that was perennial between Anaïs and the world. Anaïs, do you want to start?
Yeah, well, okay, so We Raise Our Cups existed on the studio album. That was the first time those words existed. And then it has been in every production we did. But in every production, I tried to cut it. In like previews, I think at every single time we did, there was one preview where we didn't do it.
I missed it so much that night.
I know, and I got like angry emails. Yeah. So it's really, it exists. If you don't know the song, it's like it exists as an encore in this show, and it's really the story has ended, and there is really a sort of bookend, because there's even a really like return to the beginning of the show. So it feels like, okay, the story is done. And I always was like, oh no, people are tired, they're done, they want to go. And Rachel felt strongly that it was important to have a moment of processing as an audience and a company about what has just happened before we go out. And so
Right.
that's what We Raise Our Cups is. It's this toast.
Got it.
Salve.
What part of performing the show do you miss the most? Any specific moments? Eva?
Do I miss the most? I miss the preparation. I miss the storytelling. I miss the connection. For me, doing the show, the second I knew I was in Eurydice, when I put my boots on and I was talking to 8-foot Tim on the side of the stage, going over our lives, I was Eurydice. Talking to Tim. But for me, I always felt like doing the show was like dancing amongst the constellations. I always described to people that's what it was like in my brain. So yes, I knew in the physical realm that I was on a wooden stage and there were people who didn't know what this was about. But for me, I was Eurydice, who was going on this journey of self-discovery and love, and I could see the storyteller. I could hear my the message of the story calling out to me. I could hear the fates, singing to me in the wind. It was like I was a child in that show. So for me, I can't wait to share that connection, 1, with my castmates, 2, with the audience, and 3, just experience. I kind of miss what it was like to be completely exhausted after a week and then know that we didn't have a break and then we had to do it again. There was like a weird, I'm almost like addicted to that sort of exhaustion and pain. I'm actually kind of, at this point now, really missing that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was your inspiration for the set, the design, and the costumes? Who would that be you, Rachel?
That would be me. And that would be our design team, our extraordinary design team. Rachel Hauk, who did the scenic design, Michael Krast, who did the costumes, their associates, who were extraordinary, and Bradley King, lighting, who's always a really core part of those conversations. In brief, there were like a couple major revelations along the way. Rachel's first impulse on set was a Greek amphitheater, and my impulse was the feeling of gathering around a tree. And actually, in the very first off-Broadway production, there was a literal tree. And as we developed this set and figured out how to do it in proscenium, we kept keeping that damn tree. And at a certain point, we began thinking about, well, where would you want to hear this story? Like, what is the best nighttime lock-in situation almost that you could imagine going to for a music event? And this always for us remained at its core a music event, which is why, like on the Raise Our Cups front, the idea of ending with an encore always felt right. And at a certain point, Rachel, Chavkin and I began bopping each other music places. And I can't remember if it was Rachel or me or Bradley King who spent a lot of time there, but one of us said, it's Preservation Hall. And so the idea of this like music venue became the tree in essence, right? Like the tree is I think the opening of Common Sense by Thomas Paine. He says that all you need for democracy basically is a tree to gather around and make decisions under. And that to me is the music home and the hearth. And it goes back to that idea of the Greek amphitheater. So yeah, that's Hermes's bar. That's like the way station. And then of course Anaïs rewrote Wait for Me to have this, bridge where something needed to happen. That was quite magic. And so then the idea that the Stones would move changed and expanded that image. But one of the things Rachel and I think love the most about it is that it was always there. It's actually always, we do nothing other than reveal slightly larger what was always in before your eyes. And that to me is an excellent magic trick.
Wow. Well, we have one more question from a viewer. If you could give one piece of advice to all young people, what would it be? Who wants to answer?
Anyone.
Well, it seems obvious that you should listen to that little idea that pops into your head when you're driving along and you don't know where it leads.
Oh, wow. I love that. And Reeve, what were you saying?
It kind of goes back to what I said before. I mean, don't forget who you are. When you're 5 years old, you pretty much have it figured out, in my opinion. So, I mean, don't forget.
Wow, I love that. Amber, anything?
Stay in line.
Stay in line.
Stay in the line,
In the line.
Don't get out of the line.
I love it. I can't believe that an hour has gone by. Like that. This has been, we have been looking forward to this for so long because you are like our little guinea pig project. You were the first show that we started to plan this series with. We premiered last week with Frozen, but you were the show that the seed germinated from. I cannot thank you enough.
Thank you all.
It has been a pleasure to chat with you, to meet you. And I just wish you so much success when Broadway reopens. To this entire company, it is a piece of art that will be around forever. And I can't wait for everyone that hasn't seen it to experience what is Hadestown, because it's pretty remarkable. So thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Make
Good to
sure-
see all your faces.
Make sure you follow them all on social media, their websites, and they all have projects, and there's so much advocacy and work that all of these artists do. So please make sure to follow them and keep up to date on all the great projects and work that they're doing in the future.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Wow,
What a
wow.
magical time. What a magical hour it
I
is.
love them all. I love them all. It was so nice and especially to meet Anaïs and Rachel, who I did not know. Patrick has been on our show before. So lovely.
Well, let me tell you, if there's ever been a story about coming up with an idea, for me, it's on the treadmill. For me, it's on the treadmill. For you, it may be in the car. Everybody has some quest and journey they're supposed to go on. And if this didn't inspire you, I don't know what will.
I know. Well, talk about being inspired. You and I came up with this crazy idea that has just exploded, and I could not be. I was talking to someone today, and I was like, I literally have not left my house in 10 months, and I have never been busier sitting in the same room. This series has just been a godsend. It has been a lifeline of artisticness, if that's a word.
I like it.
I like it too. Next week we have, last week we premiered with Frozen, and I had this meeting with the folks at Disney, and I was slightly terrified because Disney is very territorial, and I thought they were gonna, like send us a cease and desist order. But they loved and embraced our Broadway Cast Reunion Series, and they not only were so supportive of Frozen, but they asked us whether we might want to do a cast reunion of The Lion King. And I jokingly said to Robert, well, that would be fun, if we could get like Heather Headley. And she said yes.
Well, we did.
As you do.
Well, we did. That was good. Jonathan Hawkins running the buttons in the back. The Lion King featuring Tony and Grammy winner Heather Headley. 2 weeks.
I am pinching myself. I am so excited. So that is on March 10th. And we've got Heather, but we've also got is it 3 or 4 of the other original Broadway?
We have Tom Allen Robbins, who's Pumbaa. We have Max Casella, who was the best friend on Doogie Howser, and then he went on to be Timon.
We have Zazu.
Jeff Hoyle. I don't. He was Zazu, and then the current
Simba.
Bradley Gibson.
I'm so excited. So that is the 10th. On the 24th of March, we have Dear Evan Hansen. We've already got April scheduled. We've got Jersey Boys on April 7th, and we have a special matinee edition on April 17th with the London hit musical Everybody's Talking About Jamie with the UK cast and creative team. That musical is coming to the US to do a national tour that will commence on Broadway at some point, but they're going to be with us in April. We've got so much more coming. We've got Waitress and My Fair Lady and Come From Away in Chicago. They're all coming because it's so much fun. So thank you for joining us.
Your ticket helps support performing arts centers and artists. So please join us.
Yes.
We try to,
Look,
I'll be singing.
Right there.
It's right there.
BroadwayCastReunion.com.
I'll be singing Wait For Me. This is my Wait For Me lantern. This is my wait. I'll be singing it for days.
Oh my God. I love it. Well, thank you so much. Hey, if you're not doing anything tomorrow night, Thursday, the 25th, join us on our weekly quarantine cabaret and cocktails. Tomorrow we've got the incredible Susie Mosier, who I just adore. We've got amazing jazz artist, Tony Desar, and we've got Johnny Rogers, who's an incredible singer-songwriter who wrote our theme song.
Yes.
It's going to be a fun show.
Yeah, it's free. It's on Facebook and it's on Instagram. Next week, we have the cast of The Color Purple for free on Thursday, so come say hello.
There you go. All right. Thank you all. Thank you all from Hadestown for joining us. We love you, and have a great night, and stay safe.